Good morning, everyone. I'm Jim Miao-Shi from Energy Sector Group of ADB. Welcome to Virtual Deep Dive Workshop, CCUS, Essential Tool for Low Carbon Transition in Asia. This workshop is co-organized by ADB and the UK government. CCUS Deep Dive Workshop and the relevant activities is an important element of ASAF Week. Go back to last 2 years in 2019, we had a CCUS Deep Dive Workshop. Asia wakes up to CCUS and roundtable discussion in headquarters of ADB. Last year, the first virtual workshop enabling CCUS implementation in Asia was happened online. In previous workshop, we introduced emerging CCUS technologies, demonstrate projects, shared lessons and experience, talked about the business model, as well as financing support. Yesterday evening, Clean Energy Ministry CCUS initiative and ADB co-organized a CCUS set event, Balancing CCUS, a key clean energy technology for industry. This morning, our deep dive workshop will focus on the role of the CCUS as essential tool in low carbon transition of Asia and discuss the relevant policies, how to promote CCUS development. Hope all audience would enjoy our session. First of all, I will introduce Dr. Zhai, invite him to give a welcome and opening remarks. Dr. Zhai has been working on energy development in Asia and Africa for more than 25 years. He is currently Chief of the Energy Sector Group of ADB in charge of the overall energy policy coordination and the technical support to ADB energy sector operations. He is also in charge of the developing energy sector knowledge work for ADB and interact with the worldwide energy sector partners. Dr. Zhai, floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Jim Miao, for your kind introduction. Dear friends, colleagues, and online participants, greetings from Manila. Welcome to take part in this CCUS Deep Dive Workshop of 16th Asia Clean Energy Forum. The Deep Dive Workshops of ASAP are expected to discuss many important low-carbon technologies, policies, and key issues. Since 2016, every year, we have a CCUS Deep Dive Workshop in all these ASAP meetings, and I have been taking part most of these ASAP workshop on CCUS. This is a clear reflection of ADB's conviction, my own belief that CCUS is an essential tool for decarbonize Asia. I would like to thank UK government and other development partners for supporting us and supporting you, our member countries, in pushing for deployment of CCUS technologies. The importance of CCUS technology keeps on increasing as countries becoming more ambitious through their target of net zero emissions. It is clear that without such technology like CCUS, we won't be able to achieve net zero emissions target. So there are also these hard to decarbonize applications that would require CCUS technology to reduce GHG emissions. And the need to decarbonize is today, and action is needed today so that in 30 years that we have a chance to reach net zero emissions. So an action today will be much more valuable than the efforts of tomorrow. So the available technology, CCUS technology, need to be applied today. Energy Sector Group of ADB has been quite active and has been continuously in touch with stakeholders in our member countries across with the government and private sector players. We have been in active dialogue with international community in CCUS I'm happy to let you know some of these events, activities we have undertaken since last year's ASEF. For example, we worked on the roadmap of CCUS for China. We updated the roadmap because China has announced its ambition for carbon neutrality by 2060. We have engaged with Clean Energy Ministerial. We have engaged with Oil and Gas Climate Initiative, IEA, and METI, and other development partners in this technology. And we organize virtual training programs in collaboration of Northwest University of China for capacity building. We collaborated with a cement industry, Dalmia Cement company in India to make a pre-feasibility study for CCU project. We worked together with a refinery, IOCL also. I think in India, we prepare a free pre-feasibility study in making good grade of CO2 for application. We also explored CCUS opportunities in Vietnam, Malaysia, and Indonesia. We continue supporting a CCU demonstration project in Shanxi, Yanchang Petroleum of China. So these are some of the samples of our activities. We're going to share out of these activities the knowledge product, the reports we produce with the audience so that you know what would be achieved, what have been achieved through these activities. Today, this morning in Manila time morning, I'm very pleased to let you know that ADB has prepared a compendium of game-changing CCU technologies, which has 11 advanced project ideas. I will encourage you to review these materials from ADB website and give us a feedback so that our team can continue to improve our work and also receive your suggestions and where the CCUS technologies can be deployed. I would like also to talk about a little bit future, what's happening, some of these key issues that would affect the deployment of CCUS. First of all, we need to make sure that we understand the dynamic of carbon pricing. There has been increased awareness on carbon pricing. By the end of this year's COP26, I hope we will have a clear picture on how the shape of international carbon pricing system. But in some countries, domestic emission trading schemes have been started being deployed. And in Europe, we have seen that the trading system is giving us a price above US $50, very significant price. So expectations are that the carbon price will start approaching $100 even more per ton by end of this decade, making CO2 avoidance technologies like CCUS much more commercially viable. But before that, we need to prepare ourselves for that viability. That's about the carbon pricing. We need to pay attention on another issue, a related issue on border tax. You may have read that the European Union has been considering introducing carbon border tax, which is likely to be followed by other countries since this is a border tax. So this would have a cascading effect on the number of countries regarding their need for decarbonization. The third issue is modularity. CCUS technology should be out of pilot stage. It's been too long. We have been doing pilot for long, but it's now time for us going to next step. This is time when mass production and modularization will start. It can have a dramatic effect on the cost, which will accelerate implementation of CCUS technologies. The first point, I would like to mention the need for common CO2 infrastructure. The CO2 evacuation infrastructure is going to be similar for electricity carrying cable. The common CO2 carrying infrastructure will make the CO2 sequestration more affordable. And next issue on CO2, the U of CCUS, CO2 utilization. conversion of captured CO2 into useful product will not only reduce the carbon footprint and accelerate CCU project to reach a carbon cycle economy, very important. And lastly, let me mention hydrogen. With the CCUS technology, we can make hydrogen production to start the process. Before that, the hydrogen become fully green. So that this is a good chance for both CCUS and also hydrogen. I mentioned this a few years ago. So let's follow up these events very closely, since this would affect the rate and the scale of CCUS applications. Very lastly, let me mention that ADB is currently updating our energy policy. The current policy was dated 12 years ago. At that time, CCUS, hydrogen, and some of the emerging technology have not been talked as much like today. And there's so much changes, and we need to reflect these changes in the new policy. I would like to draw your attention that we have already posted the draft energy policy online, looking for feedback and comments from broad public and stakeholders. And in this draft, we have indicated that ADB will support CCUS in the new policy. So we have been doing this for the last 10 years, and we hope to be continue to do so with the energy policy, new policy in place, so that CCUS technology can be deployed in big scale in Asia and globally. Thank you very much. I wish you a very successful discussion at this deep dive workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zhai. In the opening remarks, Dr. Zhai highlighted the importance of the CCUS to reach the targets of the net zero emission and the role of the ADB. ADB will continue to support the CCUS in Asia. He also launched a compendium of the game-changing CCUS technology, and you can access this document on ADB website for free. Dr. Zhai, thank you for your big support on CCUS work. Now we will move to the next slot. UK government is the one of the critical CCUS enabler in the world. UK is the donor of the CCUS fund in ADB, and they provide many supports to promote the CCUS deployment in Asia. Now, welcome Mr. Alan Patton to deliver the keynote speech. Alan is a climate finance investment lead and a senior policy advisor from the Department for Business, Energy and Industry Strategy. She is the program manager for the UK government's £70 million international CCUS program and the policy lead on CCUS in developing countries. Alan, please share your insight. Over to you.
Hi, my name is Ellen Payton, and I'm a climate finance investment lead and senior policy advisor in the UK government. I work in the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. It has been brilliant to co-organise this workshop with the Asian Development Bank, and this is our fourth deep dive workshop on CCUS in recent years. It builds on our strong relationship in promoting CCUS in the region. You will have heard from other representatives in the UK government this week. On Monday, my colleague co-led an industrial decarbonisation workshop where CCUS was discussed as one technology to promote industrial decarbonisation. And on Tuesday, Minister Adams will have talked about the UK ambitions in the run-up to COP26. In this workshop, I would like to talk about why CCUS is an essential tool for the low-carbon transition, and using the UK as a case study on how CCUS can be used to meet net zero commitments. I would then like to talk about actions that still need to happen to ensure that we can maximise the use of CCUS in order to reach net zero, and then explain how climate finance is supporting those actions. You will receive participant feedback forms at the end of the session. I'd be really grateful if you could share your thoughts with us, and I'm really looking forward to learning from the upcoming panel discussions. So, why use CCUS in the low carbon transition? Last year, the International Energy Agency wrote that the story of CCUS had largely been one of unmet expectations, with slow deployment and limited carbon emissions reductions. However, there is a real need for that story to change. CCUS can account for 15% of the global cumulative emissions reductions needed to reach net zero in 2070. And we know that it works. There are now 26 CCUS projects operating or under construction around the world, and they have the capture capacity equivalent of removing 40 million tons of CO2 from the atmosphere every year. But we also know that CCUS is directly relevant in the Asia-Pacific region. Research by Vivid Economics has found that CCUS will be the dominant industrial mitigation opportunity in Asia by 2050. And the Global CCUS Institute has looked at which countries are most in need of CCUS deployment. And we found that China, India, and Indonesia are all in the top 10. The Global CCUS Institute also considers which countries are ready to deploy CCUS, and only China is in the top 10 at the moment. So now I'd like to talk about how the UK has used CCUS as a tool to reach our net zero goals. So this year, the UK holds the G7 presidency and will host COP26. A demonstration of our climate ambition is that we've announced 78% emissions cuts by 2035 and net zero by 2050, and they're both legislated. CCUS is very important in meeting the UK's net zero target. So we, as announced in the 10-point plan for a green industrial revolution, which sets out the UK's ambitions to build back better, to support green jobs, and to accelerate our pathway to net zero. The UK aims to establish CCUS in 2 industrial sites by the mid-2020s, and a further 2 sites by 2030. We aim to capture 10 million tons of CO2 per year by 2030, and that's the equivalent to taking 4 million cars off of the road. And this will be supported by the £1 billion CCS Infrastructure Fund. This fund looks at super places. It's a place-based approach that aims to treat the hardest parts of our economy, or aims to decarbonise the hardest parts of our economy. So we've now talked about why CCUS is needed and how it can be used. In this part of the presentation, I'd really like to emphasise the fact that action really needs to happen this decade in order for CCUS to be operating and actually capturing carbon emissions in time to be the most effective tool in the run-up to meeting net zero targets. And as you can see, to meet net zero by 2050, the rate of deployment must increase 100-fold. And part of the reason that action needs to happen this decade is the very long lead-in times in developing CCUS projects. So there's already been some very strong action to date. For example, last year at the Clean Energy Ministerial in Saudi Arabia, the CCUS financing principles were launched. These principles were developed by the Clean Energy Ministerial CCUS initiative, working with banks and industry, and they developed 10 rules that looked at, for example, appropriate risk mitigation and building bankable pipelines and incorporating CCUS in updated NDCs. And they're a very strong tool for different stakeholders within this discussion to understand their role in promoting CCUS. We're also seeing increasing private sector engagement, strengthened climate commitments, and new business models and costs beginning to decline are improving the viability of CCUS and encouraging more private sector participation. However, we still need to act to increase and accelerate investment and innovation, and to increase and sustain government ambition. So, in the last part of my presentation, I would like to explain how UK climate finance aims to support this. So, UK's international climate finance is all official development assistance or aid money. And in the 2021 to 2026 period, the UK has committed to doubling our commitment to £11.6 billion. The aim of all international climate finance is to support poverty reduction by helping developing countries to adapt to climate change, take up low carbon development, and tackle deforestation. So the UK is the largest multilateral investor in CCUS globally. We've provided £70 million through the International CCUS programme, and was delivered by the ADB and the World Bank. It aims to support aid-eligible countries to develop CCUS as part of the energy transition. So, how are the projects within this programme designed to support the promotion of CCUS as one tool in the low-carbon transition? All projects respond to government needs, and examples of successful projects here are developing the technical evidence for pilot projects, for example, in China and Indonesia. Building capacity, for example, supporting or providing evidence to inform the CCUS national roadmap in China, and supporting CCUS centres of excellency to build capacity and capability. For example, there are 3 in China and 1 in Indonesia. And to date, we have supported Indonesia, China, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Vietnam, and Mongolia. You will have heard in the last presentation that the ADB has now launched the CCUS Game Changers in Asia report. And we are very excited for this launch as it is a brilliant tool for different countries to understand which CCUS technologies are most suitable to them. There will be a further 2 reports ahead of COP26 this year that may also be of relevance. So, for example, there is the Global Decarbonising Natural Gas Study, which will include CCUS as a tool, and also a study on technological innovations in industrial decarbonisation in developing countries. These are both World Bank led, and we will be happy to share findings from them at a later date. I'm very much looking forward to seeing the rest of this session, and thank you very much for your time.
Many thanks, Ellen. I would like to take this opportunity to express our thanks to you and your colleagues on CCUS work. Now, let's move to the presentation session. First, I will invite Professor Jingli Fan. I will invite Professor Jingli Fan to give the first presentation. You know, China is the second largest economy, and President Xi announced an ambitious climate target, 2030 carbon peak, 2060 carbon neutrality. At present, walks of life are actively engaged in carbon emission reduction, and many relevant policies are issued. This is a very good chance for CCUS players, not only in China, but also worldwide. Professor Fan will introduce the CCUS progress of China and update the recent CCUS policy in this country. Professor Fan is the PhD supervisor at the School of the Energy and Mining Engineering, China University of the Mining and Technology, Beijing. He is also a senior consultant of the Ministry of the Science and Technology of PRC. Professor Fan, please start your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Chair Xu, per introduction. Good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jingli Fan. Today, I would like to share some main points about CCUS progress and the policy in China. As we all know, on September 2020, Chinese President Xi Jinping has declared that China aims to have the CO2 emission peak before 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality before 2060. This is the first time for China to propose such a long-term climate goal. In addition, about half a month ago, the first plenary meeting of the carbon neutrality leading group was held, chaired by the Vice Premier Han Zheng. In the meeting, the CCUS technology is regarded as one of the key technologies to achieve carbon neutrality. Based on this background, I would like to introduce the development of CCUS in China from 5 aspects. First, the policy changes. According to our survey, a total of 33 relevant national CCUS policies have been issued between 2006 and 2020. With different focus in different periods. During the 11th 5-year period till 2010, the policies focus on the technology orientation to address climate change. During the next 5 years period, the number of policies increased rapidly and the content was enriched, mainly focusing on the CCUS R&D and the demonstration. While the number of policies during the 13th 5-year period decreased, but had more dedicated CCUS plans. For example, the development roadmap of CCUS technology in China published in 2019, which is the update of the 2011 version, and the technical guide for the CCUS environmental risk assessment by the MEE. Also, a series of national assessment report of CCUS technology was carried out. For example, the assessment report on the CO2 utilization technology in 2014, the annual report of CCUS development in China since 2019. Importantly, a special report of the national climate change is compiling, meaning the CCUS technology assessment report organized by the most. Very recently, especially after the carbon neutrality goal approval, the CCUS policies had a new development. For example, the CCUS technology was included into the 14th 5-year plan for the first time in China. The MEE encouraged qualified regions and enterprises to explore the demonstration of CCUS project, and the corresponding guidelines is forthcoming. So is the National Science and Technology Innovation Plans of the 14th 5-year plan by the most. At the province level, in addition to 29 provinces have issued the CCUS-related policies, Zhejiang province is to launch the provincial planning of CCUS. Beijing, Henan, and Shanxi provinces are planning to build carbon neutrality demonstration zones. In addition, a number of central enterprises have proposed their action plans to promote carbon peak or neutrality target, such as Sinopec, Huaneng Group, Datang Power, and Baowu Steel. Second is the R&D status. China strongly supported the CCUS technology R&D from different sources, such as National Key Research and Development Plan, National Natural Science Foundation of China. Over 3 billion yuan has been invested into the CCUS technology field since the 10th 5 years plan. Under this foundation, China's publication and patent application of the CCUS field has been increasing rapidly and ranked the first in the world. Very recently, the PRC MOST is preparing 3 major tasks. First, the compiling of the roadmap for the carbon neutrality technology development. Importantly, the CCS and the carbon 6 is regarded as one of the 5 major categories of carbon neutrality technologies. Second, a new key research and development special program named Key Carbon Neutrality Technologies is developing. Third, the Carbon Peak and Neutrality Technology Innovation Action Plan is also compiling. Third, the demonstration of the CCUS project. By the middle of 2020, China has conducted at least 35 CCUS projects with a capture capacity of more than 3 million tons per year, and with a cumulative storage of around 2 million tons per year, including each component of the full chain CCUS project. Sorry. And some latest development about the demonstration, such as the Yangon Benson CCS hub in Xinjiang extend its plan to 10 million tons by 2030. Taizhou power plant has become the largest CCUS full chain project in China. The CO2 depot mineralization maintenance experience has been successfully run for 72 hours, and Baowu Steel, Hebei Steel is planning their CCUS facilities. Fourth, the global cooperation. China pay attention to the international cooperation with developments and with the developed countries and the institutions, such as the China-Australia geological storage of CO2 project, the NZAC cooperation project, the CSLS CCUS capacity building projects, and so on. Also, China had a good policy cooperation with other countries. For example, the China-US joint statement addressing climate change. Also, the international with the cooperation with the international organizations such as the GCCI, OGCI, CEM, and the international financial institutions such as ADB. For example, the forthcoming CEM 12, the hydrogen CCUS China report by the IEA, the roadmap just mentioned, the update of the CCUS by the ADB, IPCC, the IPCC AR6. Finally, I would like to summarize by the policy implications. First, the strengthen policy support for CCUS. Second, promote investment in CCUS key technologies. For example, the second and the third capture technology and the pipeline network and so on. Explore a new commercial model, especially for the full chain CCUS project. And finally, activity development, the international cooperations especially deepen the international multilateral cooperation and the framework of CSLF, CEM, and so on. Okay, this is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Fan, for your informative presentation. I'm very excited that many CCUS policies, national level and provincial level are issued, and 35 CCUS projects has been implemented in China. Dear audience, if you have any questions, please post it online. Our speakers will try to address in Q&A session. In addition, you can provide your feedback from the platform after this session. It is placed at the right side of the virtual platform. Please click the feedback button. You can access it. Okay. Indonesia is one of the most country lead CCUS technology in Asia, and they are very proactive on CCUS knowledge and projects. They established the National Center of the Excellence CCUS and implemented EOR, EGR study projects, as well as the CO2 source sink matching study, and so on. So the second presentation will be delivered by Mr. Tutuka Arigi. He is the Director General of the Oil and Gas Ministry of the Energy and Mineral Resource of Indonesia. He will give the presentation with recording or video. Thank you.
Honorable Mr. Yongping Zhai, Chief of Energy Sector Group, Asian Development Bank. Mrs. Ellen Patton, Climate Finance Investment Lead of UK Government. Mrs. Jing Li Fan, Professor and Senior Consultant of Ministry of Science and Technology, PRC. All speakers from Global CCS Institute and METI, Japan. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to you all. As we know, CCUS is one of the technology solution capable to reduce significant greenhouse gas emission from fossil fuels in power generation and industrial processes, including oil and gas sector. CCUS is currently a key issue at the global level relating to the reduction of CO2 emissions and reuse it to increase oil recovery in depleted oil fields, for instance. For Indonesia, CCUS has several important roles. CCUS is needed to support Indonesia's NDC targets. The government of Indonesia, as pledged by President Joko Widodo at the 21st COP 2015 in Paris, is committed to reduce greenhouse gas emission in year 2030 to 29% and 41% with international support. Currently, Ministry of Environment and Forestry is developing the document of long-term strategy on low carbon and climate resilience 2050, LCCR, which also includes a vision of net zero emission, and CCUS will be one of the keys to achieve the target. CCUS is also needed to improve national oil and gas production. Currently, the Indonesian government is in the effort to reach 1 million barrel per day and 12 BSFD in year 2030. By optimizing the existing fields production, finding a new reserve for exploration, and increasing national oil and gas production through enhanced oil recovery, EGR, including CCUS, CO2, EOR, and EGR. This technology could also be a solution for gas fields that have not been developed because of high CO2 content. Ladies and gentlemen, we fully support the implementation of CCUS in oil and gas sector through CO2 injections. CCS can be a solution to provide more environmentally friendly energy, while Indonesia also focuses on developing renewable energy. To support the development of CCS, in 2017, we established the National Center of Excellence, CCS, which is focused on developing national capacity in measuring technical, safety, economics, social, and regulatory aspects, as well as promoting the potential of CCUS in Indonesia. Currently, the government of Indonesia is formulating regulations related to carbon pricing and already in the finalization process. The carbon pricing mechanism is divided into number one, carbon trading, including emission trading through emission cap and emission offset. 2, result-based payment. 3, carbon tax through incentives and disincentives. And 4, other mechanism regarding the future trend. Moreover, we also continuing the drafting process regulations related to CCS, which was already prepared by the National Center of Excellence CCS and supported by ADB. We hope that this regulation could support stakeholders in developing CCUS technology in Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, there are several studies related to CCS that are being carried out in Indonesia. For instance, the Kude CCS projects, which was originally taken place in East Java in year 2012, and thanks to ADB for the previous support. The study for this project still ongoing under support of METI Japan, and we hope it will produce good results. Other ongoing CCUS studies, for instance, like Tangguh in Tangguh and Sukawati, Limoniru, and others. Several oil and gas companies also interested to include CCUS in their development plan, such as Block Sakakemang by Repsol and Block Masela by Inpex. Even CCUS study connected to downstream will be started soon, such as how to manage separated CO2 from ammonia plant in Central Sulawesi. In Indonesia, the CO2 sourcing method study has been carried out by National COE CCUS to mapping the location of CO2 sources and the nearest potential fields for CO2 injection. This mapping also opens the possibility for CCUS clustering or hub system. The CO2 sources not only from oil and gas sector, but also power plants and other industries. And the integration of all sectors in realizing CCUS clusterings or hub is needed to enhance the feasibility of CCUS projects by reducing capex using shared facilities. Ladies and gentlemen, government of Indonesia realized that the development of CCUS requires cooperation and collaboration with all parties, including ADB, METI Japan, Oil and Gas Company, Center of Excellence, and others. And we will always support all stakeholders that promote CCUS technologies to be implemented in Indonesia. Finally, allow me to thank all parties involved, and I hope we have a good time for this workshop. Thank you very much to the Haji, Director General of Oil and Gas of Indonesia.
International Relations and Climate Change Issues in Ministry of the Economic, Trade and Industry, MITI of Japan. Mr. Kawakuchi is also he is also in charge of the CCUS policy and technology development. I'm very pleased to that he can join this panel and bring the latest information of the CCUS in Japan. Mr. Kawakuchi, look forward to your sharing. The final panelist is the Professor Fan. He just gave us a good presentation to introduce the CCUS work of China. Professor Fan is an academic, but also she is a senior consultant of the Chinese government. She waiting for the further discussion with you on CCUS of China. So, okay, all the panelists are on board. For first of all, I will invite Dr. Zhang, Mr. Sharma, and Mr. Yukihiro to give an initial remarks. You can take this opportunity to share your insights and information on CCUS. Each panelist has 2 minutes. Tony, you're first, please.
Thanks, Jimmy. So I want to thank ADB for this opportunity, and it is a great pleasure to join this panel discussion today, along with other distinguished speakers. So today I want to share a few observations regarding CCS development, especially in this region. And overall, I have to say I'm thrilled to see the progress over the last 12 months, over the last 18 months also, despite the pandemic. To give you an example, so the institute members have grown from 59 to 105, and 59 in 2019, and till today is 105, so almost doubled. So this demonstrates the commitment and support for CCS among governments and corporations. So I have 4 specific points to share today. And the first is basically, we already heard from other speakers earlier, more countries and corporations have made net zero or carbon neutral pledges. And for example, governments like China, Japan, Korea, corporations such as Petronas, BHP, and CCS is essential to achieve net zero targets, especially for countries with large industrial emissions. Secondly, there have been substantial regional progress across the CCS value chain. I include a few quick examples. For example, Australian government last year announced $50 million CCS fund, and early this year added another $263 million. Singapore government last year included a $49 million fund to support CCS and hydrogen. And Malaysia announced its first large-scale CCS project and is working on the regulatory framework. And Indonesia, I've already heard there's one demonstration project and also a large-scale project in South Sumatra. And for India, I'm sure we'll hear more from Mr. Sharma, but we have observed substantial increase in interest from Indian corporations. So I'm sure Kawaguchi-san later on will discuss key progress in Japan. Yeah. However, I mean, the development across different countries are not balanced. So that's why come to my third point, collaboration is critical. And so we have seen already good collaboration between governments, bilateral collaborations such as Australia, Japan, and Singapore and Australia, and also supply chain collaboration between the corporations such as BHP and China Bowl Steel and HBIS Group on steel sector. So another trend we have observed that more companies headquartered in developed countries and such as Europe have started building strategy to work with their partners, their suppliers in Asia Pacific developing countries, especially to reduce the emissions. This is particularly important and because regions such as EU, as Professor Jay mentioned earlier, is considering a carbon border tax. My final point is that among policymakers, and so there are greater understanding, improved understanding of CCS, the technology, the cost, regulations, policy needed to make it work, and the support is increasing. And the Institute will continue to work with governments, industry, NGOs to promote CCUS deployment. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Okay, turn over to you, Mr. Sharma, please. You're mute.
Thank you very much, Jima, for giving me the opportunity to such a great forum. And everybody knows that the climate change is now reality, and everyone has started working for combating climate change. I am an Indian Oil, and Indian Oil is a diversified integrated energy manager, and it is present in almost all the streams of oil, gas, petrochemical, alternate energy, renewable sources. It has a very high caliber people and state-of-the-art technologies and cutting-edge R&D technology. So regarding this, Indian Oil has also taken various green initiatives like commercial scale bioscale production from organic waste. This is going on with the help of Indian government in a very large scale, and this will certainly going to give the energy from the renewable sources as well as reduce the carbon emission. We have various initiative on carbon capture, utilization and storage project going on. Indian Oil is very aggressive and working in 4 refineries, which as you know, the refineries emit lots of CO2, and we need to stop it, and we need to recycle, and we need to reuse it in different products. We have a very ambitious target from waste to energy projects. But Indian Oil state-of-art research and development center located in Faridabad is also aggressively working on carbon capture technology, metal air batteries, and they have done a lot of research on it. And as an India as a country, because our Prime Minister has already targeted economy of $5 trillion US. So energy needs will be going on, and we know the oil and gas will remain there till we completely change over to green sources. So while this transition, this CCUS will be very, very, very important part to curb this carbon emissions. Last but not at least, I would like to say that while fulfilling the energy needs for country, Indian Oil for India is determined to providing better future for our next generation. Thank you very much from my side.
Okay, thank you, Sharma. Mr. Yukihiro, please go ahead your statement.
Okay, thank you very much for your introduction, and I really appreciate that ADB has invited me to this valuable panel discussion. And so, as was stated by everybody, I think that the world is taking a major step towards decarbonization. And well, for Japan, it's true that because at the climate summit in April, hosted by the US, Japan announced to raise its 2030 greenhouse gas reduction target from 26% compared with the 2013 level to 46%. And to continue its challenge of 50% reduction target. And of course, Japan has already announced the climate neutrality goal by 2050. So in order to achieve economic growth, of course, and carbon neutrality, at the same time, we believe that a diverse and realistic energy transition are necessary. Utilizing all fuels and all technologies, so taking into account the circumstances of each country. So to achieve this end, CCUS is of course considered to be an essential technology. So in Japan, a CCS demonstration project was conducted in Tomakomai City in Hokkaido Prefecture, with a cumulative injection capacity of 300,000 tons. Completed in 2019, and with understanding of local residents in the vicinity of the city, the completion of safe and secure operation on this scale has opened up new possibilities for the development of CCUS around the world. However, we believe that there are still some issues, of course, to be solved in order to commercialize CCUS and implement it in the society. So in order to solve those issues, I believe that international discussion or collaboration such as this discussion are necessary. So I am looking forward to today's discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all of my panelists. So if audience have any questions to them or any comments to their statements, please leave message on the virtual platform. We will select some questions to address in Q&A session. CCUS Deep Dive Workshop will move to the first round, the common questions. I prepared some common questions and will request our panelists to give a quick and brief response in 2 minutes each person. So, in the context of the low carbon transition, what is the application potential of the CCUS technology in your country or industry? What do you think of this technology? What do government policymakers think of these technologies? Okay, first I will invite Tony, please.
Thanks, Jimio. A very good question and very important question. So I'm based in Australia, so I manage the institute engagement with the Australian government and industry. So in Australia, I think there are CCS has been discussed and over the last 20 years. I think Australia is one of the country or one of the few countries have CCS regulations in place. So that provides a very good foundation for Australia to deploy CCS technology. Of course, there are a few sectors I think that that is better suited and for deployment. One of them is the natural gas sector. Australia is a large country for LNG export for 2 reasons. One, basically, the sector is facing tremendous pressures and from shareholders, basically to reduce its carbon emissions as part of the ESG obligations. Secondly, and apply CCS to LNG sector, especially to reduce reservoir CO2 emissions, is cost effective. In some scenarios in Australia, it can be as low as $20 per ton and basically transported and stored. So this is also the cost target set up by the Australian government. So that's very, basically this sector is well positioned to be the first batch of products. And also, of course, Australian government does have some other policy support, such as we are now looking at the emission reduction fund, which can be used to support CCS project. And also, as I mentioned earlier, the Australian government has set up a new funding to support projects. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Now let's move to Mr. Sharma. Please share your observation. You're mute.
Yes, Mr. Gilbert, thank you very much for this interesting question. And I am located in India, so you know the Indian economy, the number of people, number of industries, whether it's steel, refineries, they are going. They are needed for the growth of the economy. Our Indian government is very aggressive in action towards combating climate change. Our Prime Minister already, everyone knows that stated in UNCC that India has ratified to decrease its emission intensity of its GDP by 33 to 35% by 2030. CCUS, regarding the technology, CCUS combined with EOR is very lucrative options and a win-win situation because India imports around 80% of crude as energy and especially the crude oil. And as the crude is imported through ships, it emits a lot of emission while transporting. So if we are able to capture the CO2 from various industry and we can utilize it for our own oil fields, it will definitely reduce the carbon footprint in overall. And the Indian government already has the policy for CO2 EOR.
Sorry, we may lost the connection. Okay, No problem. Let's move to next panelist, Mr. Kawaguchi. Please share your insights.
Well, thank you very much for your question. And let's see first the global situation by using the number of IEA. And with the SDS scenario, Sustainable Development Scenario by the IEA, CCUS is estimated to contribute about 50% of the global cumulative emission reduction in 2070 when carbon neutrality is achieved. And so that's why the CCUS is indispensable globally. And the same is true for Japan, Japan's carbon neutrality, where CCUS is essential. And Japan submitted a long-term strategy based on the Paris Agreement in 2019, when our long-term target was still 80% for 2050. And in that long-term strategy, the need for CCUS technology is clearly stated. And in particular for coal-fired power generation, it sets a goal of considering the introduction of CCS by 2030, assuming its commercialization by that timeline. So therefore, in the context of the declaration of carbon neutrality by 2050, I believe that the importance of the CCUS is increasing. For example, RIGHT, a Japanese research institute, has shown a model scenario which shows which technology and what amount of those technologies are needed to achieve carbon neutrality. And in that model scenario, it is expected that about 100 to 300 million tons of CCUS will be introduced when carbon neutrality is achieved by 2050. And Japan's annual greenhouse gas emissions are about 1.2 billion tons. So currently, so therefore, after we have injected 300,000 tons of CO2 by Tomakomai CCS pilot project, we are now considering what policies are needed to make CCS commercially viable. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Professor Fan, please go ahead to respond to these questions. You are muted.
Thank you, Mr. Jin Yang. I would like to share some insight. For the China government, as you know, since the carbon neutrality goal proposed, the CCUS, the position of CCUS in China's low carbon transmission has been obtained much more attention from the government side. For example, the CCUS technology for the first time to formally included into the 14th, the national 14th 5-year plan. For example, in the forthcoming CCUS technology assessment report of the National Forest Climate Change Assessment Report, the CCS definition has been extended to include additionally include the BECCS, the one important negative emission technology, and the DACCS, and the future, maybe the future negative technology.
Okay, we have lost the sound.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Oh, yes, okay. In addition, in my opinion, I still think the CCUS technology is still has its challenge to achieve the carbon neutrality, because so many alternative technologies, such as the solar and the wind power technology. So is high cost, high energy penalty, and high risk is still there is challenges to extend to its deployment of and demonstration. Therefore, the position of the CCUS maybe can be more important when the mitigation cost of the social mitigation cost is as high as afford the CCUS cost. So in summary, the CCUS is important, is a component, essential component of the mitigation technologies, but it still face much challenges. Yes, that's all.
Okay, thank you very much for your response. So I think the four panelists' response are very clear. I will not make any comments. I will move to the next round. So now the second round, special questions is coming. In this round, I will propose customized questions of each panelist, and you can answer it in 3 minutes. First question I propose to Tony. In perspective of international organization of the CCS, what do you think is needed for the development of the CCUS in Asia region? To policymakers, for them, they want to use the CCS technology to achieve the low carbon transition targets, but they are also under the pressure of the high cost of the CCUS. So do you have any suggestions to the government for this? Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy. Yes, the Institute does have global presence, and we do have a good understanding about CCS development around the world. The Asia Pacific region is very unique. It is very dynamic and fast growing region, and it is very diverse. And we have developed countries such as Japan, Australia, and we also have some developing countries, and so relatively poor countries such as Cambodia, Laos. So first, different countries, I think they need to have different strategies and policies based on their own emission profiles and resources available. So you mentioned the point about the cost, and cost reduction clearly is critical to achieve commercial viability. So on the one hand, some sectors, as I mentioned earlier, such as natural gas processing, there are low cost opportunities. I think government should work with the corporations to develop these projects first and to get more experience in terms of operating, permitting, regulating, and CCS project. On the other hand, I think government should work with work together and to support technology development to reduce cost. And so these could be carbon capture technologies or new compression equipment or new monitoring techniques and other things. Here again, I want to emphasize the importance of collaboration, be it bilateral or multilateral between governments or between corporations. I think this is critical to reduce costs. And when we talk about cost, the other factor is finance cost. I think that's where climate finance is important. I think international organizations such as ADB, GCF, and World Bank, I think will have a critical role to play to reduce the risk premiums for CCS projects to support projects, especially in developing countries. The last point I want to make is about shared infrastructure. And I think Professor Jay mentioned earlier. So I think it is important to build out this shared infrastructure such as CCS hubs. And so now we have seen our discussions in Northern Australia, in Southeast Asia, in China, and other parts of the region, because it can achieve economies of scale, it can reduce the cost, and also it could attract more financial sector support for larger shared infrastructures. So these are my observations. Thanks.
Thank you, Tony. Thanks for your insights. Mr. Sharma will come back our panel, so we need suspense for half minutes. Hi, okay, we will continue. Hello, Mr. Sharma, welcome back. Now it's
I'm so
now it's your turn. I will propose a question to you. I know IOCL has ambitious plans to deploy the CCUS technology. Does the Indian government have a corresponding policy support? What kind of the policy support do you hope to receive to help your company develop CCUS? Thank you.
Thank you, Chinmay. This is very relevant question in this session, and I know Indian Oil is leading CCUS activities in India, and Indian government is also very aggressive and supporting everywhere. All oil companies, energy companies, steel sector, they have already in a place a CCUS EOR policy. EOR combined with CCUS is a vital role in combating climate change. Indian Oil itself is developing carbon capture technologies in its own state-of-the-art R&D center. We are successful at both the pilot plant and demonstration plant, and this will be very cost-effective technology and very cheap, which is relevant for this future plan of CCUS in India, because the money is also, investment is also important apart from meeting these targets. Indian government is to nurture the area of carbon capture utilization, and also invested a lot of in research and development and capacity building, both human resource as well as infrastructure, to evolve technologies and methodologies that address issues related to high capital costs, safety, logistics, high auxiliary power consumption. CCUS is one of the identified innovation challenge in Mission Innovation MI program, a global initiative of 24 countries and the European Union to accelerate the global clean energy innovation, in which the Department of Science and Technology, DST of India, Government of India is actively partner. The DST has already funded 19 R&D projects in area of CCUS under MI umbrella, partnering with 13 MI countries. India has also joined forces with France, Germany, Greece, Norway, Romania, Switzerland, Netherlands, Turkey, and UK, along with United States, to facilitate the emergence of CCUS by accelerating and maturing CCUS technology through targeted financing of innovative and research activities. As you know, we are already working with Asian Development Bank, and you have already funded for our one of the ambitious project from refineries, where we are already getting the very good feasibility report from ADB, and we are very hopeful to implement this within next 2 years. So I hope that the government and the Indian Oil and the other oil companies, they are joining hand together and for a better future for India, and while meeting its energy needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. I think this is not only your demand. Many CCUS players, particular industry enterprise and the private companies, they are waiting for a clear signal on CCUS policy to reduce the investment risk. So CCUS policy makers should accelerate related work to build a good investment surrounding to promote CCUS development projects, the demonstrate projects or pilot projects in Asia. Okay, let's move to the Mr. Yukihiro. In Japan, the Tomakomai CCS demonstration projects has achieved 300,000 tons of the CO2 injection. After the completion of this project, what's the plans or policies does the Japanese government have in mind to promote the CCUS in Japan?
Okay, of course, there are several issues to be addressed after the completion of injection in Tomakomai project. And the first is, of course, as many have mentioned, the cost, reducing the cost. And especially the cost of the CCS largely comes from the capturing part. So that, reducing the cost of the carbon capture technology is indispensable. So currently, I think the cost of the carbon capture part is estimated to be around $40 US dollars per ton. And well, so that's why Japan is currently conducting the research and development with the goal of reducing that $40 to the $10 per ton. That is one. And secondly, the transportation of CO2 is also the issue in Japan, because in Japan, CO2 emission sources and the potential reservoir are far apart. And there are estimates that shipping is more cost competitive than pipelines for distances of 300 kilometers or more. So in addition, unlike pipeline, the ship transport is more flexible. So for those reasons, Japan is planning to realize the ship transport of liquid CO2 with a demonstration project by 2024. And third, of course, research and development of injection and monitoring technology is need to be continued, and we are doing that. And a final point which I need to mention is a legal framework, of course, and this framework is necessary. And for example, there is an issue of long-term liability after CO2 injection. So, and also there and of course, there is no specific legal framework to CCS in Japan. So there are several legal laws to be complied even in the Tomakomai demonstration project. So that's a legal framework project problem need to be addressed in Japan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kawakuki. Next question is for the Professor Fan. China is about to launch a national carbon trading system. So do you think this system can be launched as scheduled? What impacts does this system have on the CCUS development in China? From the policy perspective, what kind of the CCUS policy do you think China needs most to promote the development of the CCUS in your country? Thank you. You are mute, please turn on your mic.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jimiao. About the carbon trading system, I think it's becoming mature and more and more mature in China. It has become a national system from the pilot ones. So the system is now is launching the national system. However, currently the system just covers the power sector, and the CCUS technology is not included into the system. I think maybe due to the traditional CO2 accounting system is just based on the production side. Nevertheless, I believe this is a positive signal for the carbon pricing system for all the mitigation technologies, including the CCUS technology. And I would wonder the including of CCUS technology into the system in the near future. Actually, there's another possibility, alternative possibility for the CCUS, that is also possible to introduce the carbon tax for the CCUS technology, another carbon pricing system. So in addition, from the policy perspectives, in addition to the carbon pricing systems, I think the Chinese government should take more attention, pay more attention to the subsidy system. It should, how to say, provide some direct subsidy, like the US 45 credit tax to the CCUS deployment, especially in the initial stage. So that's all. Thank you. To reduce the cost. Thank you.
Thank you. From your introduction, we are excited to know Chinese government has made a lot of the work to promote CCUS development. We know China has a strong ability on R&D. It has the big market, the inevitable industry manufacturing capacity, and the sufficient money compared to the other developing countries. So I believe in coming 5 to 10 years, CCUS technology combined with the blue hydrogen and carbon remove in hard debate industries such as iron and steel, cement sectors, and so on. We will, in your country, it will make a great progress. I think China will find a suitable pathway of the CCUS to contribute to the climate change mitigation. So our time is limited. So I can not to start our second round questions. So now we have received many questions from our audience. I will select some of them to request our panelists to respond. The first question is from Dr. Quader. His question is, what is your opinion on the main stumbling block or challenge to quick CCUS development in Asia? So who can respond it firstly? Tony, could you be in the first? You are mute.
Sorry, can you repeat the question again? Reading the conversation, yeah.
Yeah. Now his question is, what is the challenges for CCUS quick promotion or development in Asia?
Oh, this is a
big question.
Very big question. We don't have much time. I would say clearly, I mean, we have Kawaguchi-san here. I'm sure he can talk more, but the government's policy support, I think, will be critical for early stage developments. And because we all know technology development takes time to reduce costs, but we do have early opportunities, but that still requires government support. So yeah, that's my answer.
Thank you. Mr. Kawakuki, according to your observation, what is the biggest challenge for CCUS promotion in this region?
I think the challenge is almost the same, but let me introduce one thing. We are collaborating with Indonesia. Japan is collaborating with Indonesia. And the tool which we are using trying to use is joint crediting mechanism. Under this system, the amount which we have reduced can be converted to the credit. So what we are doing with Indonesia is we are trying to apply this JCM scheme to the CCUS project. So that's one thing which may facilitate the deployment of the CCUS in Asian region. And another thing which I want to introduce is that, of course, the multilateral collaboration among ASEAN country or Asian region is indispensable. That's why Japan is now proposing to develop the Asian CCUS network. And actually next week, there will be an Asian CCUS network forum to launch that network with ASEAN countries in 22nd. And so I introduced this forum to all the participants. You can see that invitation by ERIA, Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asian webpage. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. With the time conversation, I cannot invite each panelist to respond. So I have to wrap up our discussion. Upon agenda, it's my pleasure to invite Dr. Sujata Gupta, Director of the Sustainable Infrastructure Division, East Asia Department of ADB, to address the closing remarks. She joined ADB in 2003 and has worked on the public and the private sectors of the ADB, as well as for resource mobilization for development partners. Sujata, over to you.
Thank you, Jin Miao. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, dear participants. Like all good things, this deep dive workshop must also come to an end. The session has provided a lot of insights on the way forward for CCUS in Asia. And I would like to thank Ms. Patton, Professor Fan, Patutuka, and all the panelists, Tony, Mukesh, Yukihara-san, for their insightful presentations and comments. And of course, a big thanks to the moderator, Jin Miao, for putting together such an excellent panel, and your team, as well as the conference organizers. So we all welcome that UK continues to lead the CCUS development by designing new policies and incentives, both in UK and outside, and has been a big driver of CCUS in Asia for the ADB by supporting our carbon capture storage fund. The effects of this fund are evident in the presentation and discussions from PRC, Indonesia, and India. So as Jin Miao said, I look after infrastructure in East Asia and would like to very briefly say how the PRC has provided a model blueprint for how an emerging technology like CCUS to be used to achieve the larger goal of decarbonization. So PRC and ADB have worked in a number of areas on CCUS, which include institutionalizing knowledge through centers of excellence, preparation of a CCU roadmap and a FEED study. And going forward, we hope we can soon finance a loan, using a loan for a full-scale commercial project in an emerging CCUS technology. ADB specializes in infrastructure and has vast experience with electricity, water, transport. And we can use this experience in designing similar large common CO2 infrastructure projects that were mentioned by Yongping. And the project management, financial structuring, and administrative setup can be easily borrowed from our experience and adapted for a common CO2 infrastructure project. I would really encourage countries to explore this concept, and it will be an area where ADB can contribute to CCUS development in a big way. So over the years, ADB has developed a network of institutions and experts, and we have the tools to assist at different stages, the private sector, as well as the sovereign operations that can support decarbonization. And we all look towards CCUS with a high level of expectation in delivering our climate targets. So let's work together to make this a reality. And I can say while the workshop has ended, our work and collaboration continues. With this, I would like to thank everyone for their active participation and look forward to seeing you again next year and sharing our progress in the area. Stay safe and keep healthy. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you, Sujata. CCUS Deep Dive Workshop is closed. Audience and speakers, thank you for your participation. I just give a gentle reminder. Please provide your feedback on the virtual platform. Please click the feedback button. Okay, thank you everybody. Take care and have a good day. See you next year. Bye.
Bye.